What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I'm your host, Mitch Kaiser. Happy Monday. We are now into June. Happy June. June 1st is upon us. NBA Finals Week. Happy NBA Finals Week out there. We are coming off an epic Game 7 conclusion to the Western Conference Finals between the Spurs and the Thunder, where the Spurs took down OKC in Game 7 the other night. We're going to talk more about that game tomorrow. I'm going to save my NBA Finals preview for tomorrow for you guys. I will break down specific matchups between the Knicks, Spurs. We got an epic finals. I can't believe it's the in-season tournament cup, the championship from the in-season cup back in November or December, whenever that was. So Adam Silver is licking his chops right now. I know he's thrilled that we got Spurs Knicks for the all-time NBA ratings. I'm sure the ratings are going to be through the roof for this finals. So I know I cannot wait to break it all down, preview that matchup with you guys tomorrow. But I'll kind of save some of my takeaways from Game 7 as well, some Thunder takeaways and kind of some next steps for OKC and how they can get back to the finals next year. But yeah, I'm really going to save the NBA Finals for tomorrow. First game 1 is Wednesday night in San Antonio. The Knicks are coming off a week of vacation, basically, and so we'll see how that goes for them. So right now, I wanted to we're just gonna do a NBA mock draft real quick. This is going to be a what I would do mock. So you guys are probably looking at my board from Draft Baller. We did my big board episode on Friday. I released my top 30 prospects for you guys. We broke down some of their strengths and weaknesses, went through all 30 prospects. So now we are going to mock draft these guys based on my big board. So this is not a predictive mock like we do in NFL where we're just trying to get the picks right, even if the players aren't good. Like, I always find that silly. I've said that before, how I feel like we're missing the point of mock drafting, how you should be looking for the best 30 players instead of just trying to get the picks right based on what you're hearing on Twitter. So I always find that funny. I think mock drafting is kind of backwards, but today we're going to do a what Mitch Kaiser would do mock draft if he were the GM for all 30 NBA teams. And this is kind of going to be based on my big board that I released to you guys on Friday. So we're going to make these picks based on what I would do based on my opinions of these players. And then next week, I figured this was the right time to kind of do this before the NBA Finals. And then when the Finals ends, we'll get back to more predictive mock drafts, and because the NBA draft is in a couple weeks, end of June. So we will do more predictive mocks closer we get. Today is what Mitch would do mock because, we're just going to have some fun with it and just change it up. This will kind of be the most different mock draft you'll see. So without further ado, we're going to click mock draft right here, and we are going to get into quick start. We're going to do a solo mock draft for all 30 teams. All right, here we go. Washington Wizards on the clock now. So this is where you will see AJ Debonsa go on most people's mock draft. So you're likely going to see Debonsa go first when it's all said and done. He is the current betting favorite to go first. However, you guys know I'm pretty neck and neck with my top two prospects being AJ Debonsa and Caleb Wilson from North Carolina. I've talked about how they are 1A, 1B to me. It is neck and neck, very close. I don't have Debonsa clear-cut tier ahead of those guys. You guys remember my blue chip tiers are the top three prospects of Boozer, Wilson, and Debonsa. So I'd be happy taking any of them at the first pick. However, with Anthony Davis's status and availability kind of up in the air, you don't really know if he's even going to show up in Washington or if he even wants to play for the team. So it remains to be seen if Davis is going to even put on a Wizards jersey for a game. It doesn't sound like he wants to be there, so I don't know what that looks like. However, I'm not really factoring him in. I'm factoring Alex Sarr as the starting center, and then I'm envisioning a dominant front court duo, defensive duo of Caleb Wilson and Alex Sarr. Yes, I am taking Caleb Wilson from North Carolina first overall to the Washington Wizards because I believe he has the highest ceiling in the draft of all of these players. My comp for him is Evan Mobley. I think he can become a player in between Evan Mobley and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I really think he has that ceiling coming off a 29-3 season at North Carolina. We went through the efficiency. We went through the strengths and weaknesses last week. I believe in the tools for Caleb. I believe in the personality. I believe in the leadership. I think he fits what the Wizards are trying to build more because I think he can play the 4 and be a dominant defensive player down low where Debonce's not as much of a defender. And I also think this sets up the Jazz to pick their superstar who they've wanted for years. That is AJ Debonce, who will now go second overall to the Utah Jazz. AJ gets to stay in Utah, which was his dream coming out of BYU. It is no secret that he wants to play there. That's kind of what's been what he's been alluding to on Twitter. I'm not just making that pick based on what the player wants. I firmly believe Wilson has the highest ceiling and can be the better pro when it's all said and done. That's why I'm drafting for ceiling. I'm drafting for value. I'm going Caleb Wilson first because I believe in the tools. I believe in the potential. That's not to say Debonce it doesn't have a high ceiling. I mean, the guy led the nation in points, led the NCAA in points, 25.5 points per game. I just think when you're really looking at these guys build, their athleticism, their physicality, and the overall tools to reach their ultimate ceiling, I believe in Caleb Wilson. I believe in the person he is off the court too. Everything you hear about this kid in the locker room is he lights up a room with his personality and his smile, and that is why I'm going Caleb Wilson. I think he will be the best pro in 5 years from now when it's all 10, 15 years from now when it's all said and done for these guys. That's why we're going Wilson first, Debonce 2. All right, moving on to pick 3 now, Memphis Grizzlies. So we talked about 3 blue chip prospects, and Cam Boozer being that 3rd blue chip prospect. However, this is one where I think we talk about drafting for need versus drafting for value. And in basketball, it becomes a little different than football because there's only 5 players on a court when there's 11 players on the field for football, 22 overall who can be starters. So the Ja Morant situation is a huge question mark for the Grizzlies right now. They do not know if he's going to be the starter or if he's even going to be there going forward. So I am making this pick in mind of getting our future star point guard. I believe in this player after the March Madness tournament, after the SEC tournament. I believe Darius Acuff has superstar Kyrie Irving type potential to be a lead guard in this league. I can't pass him up with a big question mark at point guard for Memphis. With Ja Morant just kind of looming, not knowing if he's going to be the guy for the long haul or not, I have to take Darius Acuff 3rd overall because I believe we need to get our true point guard, our guy for the next era. And I don't know if there's a big old need at power forward like Cam Boozer plays. That's not to say Boozer's not a tremendous talent. Like I said, he could end up being the best player from this draft at all. And that's why he's going pick 4 to the Chicago Bulls where his dad played. And again, I know we're not making that pick for that reason, but it does fit exactly what the Bulls need, what they want, what they're building. They need a hybrid / 3-4 wing power forward to go next to Matas Buzelis. Buzelis and Giddey are kind of their only 2 building blocks that they have in Chicago. I believe Cam Boozer makes all the sense of the world, and that is a tremendous value pick at pick 4 with him falling there. Some people have him top number 1 overall on their big board, so I could see that being when it's all said and done. But Cam Boozer, that is a hell of a pick to Chicago Bulls at pick 4 overall there. All right, moving on. Pick 5, Los Angeles Clippers here. Now, I know I'm lowest on this player out of most draft analysts that you'll see. We're going to go Darren Peterson here because it's an absolute steal for the Clippers at pick 5, and it's really the position they need most next to Darius Garland in the backcourt. Garland's a small guard, 6'1" point guard. If they can get Darren Peterson, who is a 6'6" shooting guard, do it all, score first, 3-level scorer, athletic specimen, can shoot from anywhere, can make shots from anywhere, tough shots, open shots, you name it. That is a steal for the Clippers, and he's too good to pass up at pick 5. I won't even pass him up there. I know I've mentioned how I'm a little concerned about his overall ceiling and if he's going to be, kind of the psycho competitor, the worker, the hard worker that some of these other guys are, like Boozer and Wilson that you hear. We talked about Bradley Beal being Darren Peterson's comp. The 30-point scoring prow is absolutely attainable for him. I mean, that guy could absolutely be a 25, 30-point scorer in the league if he can reach his ceiling and work his butt off to get there. But the in and out of the lineup stuff, the injury stuff at Kansas was not great, not ideal, not what you want to see, because that only worries me more as he gets older. I mean, this is the youngest and healthiest he's ever going to be in theory. So I don't love that we're already dealing with stuff like that in the NCAA in college. So, and I worry how much you can trust him and bet on him in the NBA, because it's only going to get harder. It's only going to get tougher against better competition, against better players. And I would just worry and feel risk taking him in the top 3 picks. If he falls to you at 5, that's a steal, and that's a great pick. You probably sprint the card in. I don't think I could take Peterson with pick 1 or 2, because I just don't know if I can trust to hand the keys of my franchise to this kid. It's not to say he's a bad kid. Off the court, I've heard nothing, great stuff about him. It's more just the injury stuff, the dedication to the game. Like, how much is he going to push himself? How much is he going to risk it to, win it all? Because I want guys who aren't afraid of that, and, who are going to put their body on the line to help the team win. So that's my only concern with Peterson. But the highlights are there, the talent is there, the scoring is there, and I see why people toss out the name Kobe Bryant when you watch him play. So I understand it. Moving on, pick 6, Brooklyn Nets. Now, I believe they still need to get a point guard, a true point guard, like a lead guard for their future. I liked a couple of their picks last year. I actually thought Traore was decent, but I think he's more of a backup point guard long term. Yegor Gemin, I was actually intrigued by. I didn't hate that pick last year, but I think he's more of a off-ball guard, kind of tall, off-ball guard. And that's why I'm going Mikael Brown Jr. from Louisville for this pick to the Nets, because I've said it before. I believe Mikael Brown can be a lead guard in this league. I've comped him to Cade Cunningham. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-NBA first-team all-star like Cade is, but that is how he plays. That is the archetype of what he looks like when he's facilitating. He's a tall, 6'5", long facilitating point guard who can step out, shoot the 3, do it all. I look at his stats at Louisville with a grain of salt. He still had a really good season, but the injuries at the end kind of riddled his numbers a little bit. If you kind of take away the last few games for him, his numbers were way better. And I believe in that, Mikael Brown. I believe in that ceiling. I believe in the offensive talent that he is. And I think at 6'5", he's got the size and strength to be a lead guard and be for a good winning team, for a playoff team in the NBA. So I'm going Brown Jr. You guys know I'm higher on him than most. That's probably the highest you'll see him in this draft. So pick 7, Sacramento. Talk about another team who needs a point guard. And there's one on the board who is one of my favorite point guards. I've called this guy maybe the most underrated prospect in this draft class. That is LeBaron Philon out of Alabama. Again, this guy carried the Crimson Tide last year. Carried them. Absolutely carried them, averaging 22, 3, and 5, shooting 50% from the field as a guard. 40% from deep. That is some impressive stuff right there. I comped him to Darius Garland last week. That's kind of the quick first step shooting ability I see from him. He's actually taller. He's actually bigger. He's 3 inches taller than Garland, so he might even have a higher ceiling, but that's kind of how he moves. That's kind of the shiftiness he plays with out there. And the Kings need a point guard. Kings have needed a point guard forever. So that could be their guy. Again, that might be the highest you see Philon, but I'm telling you, don't fall off this. Don't not take this guy just because he's a sophomore. If that's the only reason you're not taking him in the top 10, I challenge you to overlook that, look past that, because this guy's ready. This guy's legit. This guy has what it takes. Like I said, I have him above Wagler and Flemings and Anderson, who are the next couple point guards that we'll get into in the next couple picks. Because I just think he's better. I flipped on the tape. I watched the highlights. I know he's a year older, but the age is not far off. They're kind of months apart only from the rest of these guys. Don't let the sophomore label be the reason a team doesn't take Philon in the top 10. He is absolutely a top 10 player in this draft class and will be one of the best point guards from this class. I firmly believe. All right, number 8, Atlanta Hawks. This is kind of a nice little luxury pick for the Hawks, coming off a good playoff season where they're kind of entering their next era to take a big step next year. They still need a center. They still need a long-term center, starting center big man. That is Heinz Steinbach for me. That's why I'm taking Hans Steinbach here, because they desperately need rebounding, and this guy led the nation in rebounding. This guy led the NCAA in rebounds with 11.8 per game, 18.5 points per game. I said he's like an Alperen Sengun type of big man who's offensively talented, but not a complete nothing on defense. Not the best rim protector, but can still block shots, average 1.2 blocks a game. I would be interested to see if the Hawks go more defensive-minded center, because Onyeka Okongwu is more of like that offensive stretch five who can shoot it. And I think Okongwu's best role on a championship team is like that 6-man role, like off the bench that he played for the Hawks a couple years ago, because that dude's great. Like, Okongwu's great. I love the player. I just don't know if he can be your starting center on like a finals team. So if the Hawks are planning to make a run in the playoffs next year, I think they need to beef up down low. Obviously, they didn't have Jock Landale in the playoffs. That kind of hurt them against Towns and Mitchell Robinson. So I think Steinbach improves their front court a lot. All right, number 9. I made this pick a couple weeks ago in my predictive mock. I'm keeping it for my what I would do mock because I just freaking love this player. I love this fit on this specific team with another player. That is Braden Burries from Arizona going to the Dallas Mavericks, pairing him next to Cooper Flagg on the wing. I freaking love that pairing because those two are some of the best defensive players that we've seen in college basketball the past couple of years. I called Burries the best two-way guard in this draft class, and I firmly believe that. I'll reiterate that. I think Burries is the best guard defender in this class. I comped him to Derek White last week. I think that's a great comp right there, and that's kind of the role he can play for the Mavericks if Kyrie comes back. If you get Burries slotted in at the 2 card, that is a perfect off-ball guard who can kind of take the other team's best player in terms of defense, and he can really help Flagg in some catch-and-shoot looks in the corner, as Flagg is going to be that LeBron facilitator next season. So I love Burries to the Mavericks. I made that in my predicted mock, and I'm doing it in the what I would do mock because I just think that guy's an absolute competitor, absolute winner. I think he's going to be one of the best players from this draft class, even if his stats aren't like elite at the next level. Number 10, Milwaukee Bucks. So I've also made this pick before, and I'm keeping it because I'm intrigued by the ceiling of this player, but he's a raw project, and he honestly looks most like Giannis out of all the players left. That's kind of why I mocked this a couple weeks ago. That is Nate Ament from Tennessee. Small forward, 6'10 wing, small forward, do-it-all player. In theory, this guy is like the Jalen Johnson 6'10 do-it-all wing who can shoot threes, also play defense. However, he kind of did everything at a subpar low level this past year for Tennessee and was not ready. I thought he should have came back to school. I thought he should have came back to college. However, he tested the waters and decided to come out. So, I don't know if he's going to play a whole lot next year. However, if the Bucks enter a rebuild if they trade Giannis, that's going to be the perfect time for Ament to get some looks, get some play time, get some shots up. So that's why I'm going Ament, because I do think he has like that. So one of the highest ceilings of this class, he was the 4th overall recruit among this class, which was a dominant, amazing high school basketball class. So like, if you go off the recruiting hype, he was number 4 overall and should probably go higher, but he just didn't have the best season at Tennessee and left a lot to be desired. But I still kind of been intrigued by him, and I wouldn't mind that pick at all for the Bucks. All right, number 11. We are making this pick with Steph Curry in mind you only have a window with Steph for so long, and you need to do everything you can to win next season and win right now. That's why we're adding Yaxel Lenenborg to the Golden State Warriors. The Michigan super senior. This guy's 24 years old. He is what he is. Averaged 15, 6, and 3 on a championship team at Michigan. Can play the 3, the 4. Can step out and shoot the 3. Averaged 37%. 4.5 attempts from deep. Shot 37.5% this past season. That is above league average if it were NBA, obviously. So he improved his 3-point shot a lot. I think he's going to help a team win right away. I think he can play like a Tobias Harris role off the bench, rebound, play defense, do a little bit of everything, pass, shoot a little bit. He's not going to wow you with anything. Like, again, he's not really going to improve much. Like I said, he's Cade Cunningham's age. He's older than Jalen Duren, older than half the Spurs roster. So He's not going to get much better. However, Golden State needs to win now. They need to assemble the best team possible for next season. They don't have time to wait. They don't have time to develop dudes. You need Yaxel in there right now. He can be like come off the bench right away and help Steph Curry. So, all right, number 12. So this player feels so much. It's going to be interesting to see what OKC does. So they have 2 picks in the first round. Real quick on them. I am interested to see if they go after Giannis now and kind of package their picks. We all know Sam Presti has had a ton of draft picks in his magic bag and bag of assets and been waiting to push the chips in and go all in. And, you know, they already won a championship, but now that they came up short against the Spurs in year 1 against Wemby, I think they're going to be aggressive and make some moves to get better. And whether that's trading Chet, whether that's trading AJ Mitchell, whether that's kind of trading Dort, Hartenstein, those guys, Sorber. I know Thomas Sorber's still a lottery pick from last year, didn't get any play time. Same as Nikola Topic. I'm interested to see what they do. However, we're not going to make any hypothetical trades with this mock draft. We're just going to keep it simple for now. I'm going to draft a player who I know Sam Presti would love, who I know would fit Thunder basketball. That is tough as nails guard defender from Houston, Kingston Flemings. This guy is like a Cason Wallace right there. I comped him to Andrew Nemhard last week. Cason Wallace could be another comp for him. OKC adding a Houston guard almost feels unfair for their like level of defense and like the shooting ability that they have on the wings and whatever. I just feel like every guard or every player they draft is like an elite guard defender, and there's another one right there with Kingston Fleming. So that just feels like such a Thunder pick, such a Sam Presti pick. So, and I think Fleming's best role, I've said this before, I think it's a two guard, like off-ball guard who can guard the other team's best player, not necessarily like bring the ball up the floor every play. So, all right, pick 13, Miami Heat. We're gonna draft them a point guard. I think I drafted them Phylon a couple weeks ago, but that was before I really raised Phylon up my draft board. So my next favorite point guard is Christian Anderson, who is another sophomore in this draft class. However, don't be alarmed at the sophomore label either, because this guy rocks. This guy is a stat sheet stuffer. 18 points, 3 rebounds, 7.4 assists. Yes, let me repeat that. 7.4 assists, which was 3rd in the nation. 3rd in all of college basketball. He did average 3.1 turnovers. However, you will see that with high-volume players, high-usage players. I'm not worried about that because this guy gets it done. This guy's court vision is elite. This guy's passing is elite. And you know what also is elite? His three-point shooting. He shot over 41% from deep on 7 attempts. 7 attempts from 3 is insane. I think I comped him between like Dennis Schroeder and Darius Garland because he's the facilitator that Schroeder is and kind of the like dog guard defender like mentality wise that Schroeder is, but he has the shooting ability of like Darius Garland, like a Dame Lillard. And again, I know that's a crazy lofty comp to throw out Garland and Lillard, but like it's almost like his 3-point shooting and his 47% from the field like confirms his scoring. And then you look at his assists and it's like, what can't this guy do? So that's why I think he's a lead guard in the NBA. I think he's going to be a really good player. The only worry for him is his height. I mentioned this last week. He keeps getting shorter in measurements. So, like, during the season at Texas Tech, he was 6'3", then he was 6'2", then he was 6'1", and now I'm seeing boards where he's like 6'1.5". And so that could be a concern of his size. That's why I have Phylon above Anderson ultimately, but this guy could be a Heat culture guy right away. This guy could start for the Heat next year. I believe in the player that Anderson is. The highlights were way too good. The talent was way too good. I think it's too good to pass up for the Heat at pick 13. So, all right, number 14, Charlotte Hornets. So the Hornets are about to take a fun, nice step next year. They really got their core intact. I think they know what they are. They found their identity, and they're going to make the playoffs next season. However, the only question mark for them is their front court. I don't know if Moussa Diabate is the ultimate long-term center for them, even though his rebounding is off the charts and his energy is off the charts. That's why we're adding Chris Sinek Jr. from Houston, center, freshman, 19 years old, 6'11", long, lengthy, long wingspan, long arms, can shoot the three a little bit. Underwhelming shot blocker. However, his wingspan and his His defensive fundamentals lead you to believe he will be a good rim protector in the NBA. I've also mentioned you can rest assured drafting Houston players. Anyone coached by Kelvin Sampson, they are going to have a good attitude. They're going to have a good head on their shoulders, and they're going to fight their ass off to get it done and do whatever it takes to help the team win, do whatever it takes to get play time. You can believe in the person and the individual when drafting any Houston Cougar. That's just the program, the mindset that Kelvin Sampson has installed there. So I firmly believe in all Houston players, and I never want to overthink drafting a guy from Houston because they're gonna give it their all. They're gonna battle their ass off on the court for every possession. All right, 15. You guys are probably shocked that this guy's still on the board because he's mocked at pick 5 to the Clippers. We're going to take Keaton Wagler to the hometown Chicago Bulls. They obviously won't pass him if he's there at 15. That's incredible value there. No, I don't think Keaton Wagler will be there at 15. However, I'm kind of just making my point on him that I'm a little lower on Wagler as a prospect than a lot of draft analysts, and I just don't see as much burst, don't see as much athleticism, don't see as much playmaking, some of the best decision-making out of him. I think he doesn't have the best quick first step. Like, he's not the big-time athlete that some of these other guys are, and my biggest concern is he was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school and wasn't a top 100 guy like a lot of these names. So it can be risky because he did just have a dominant, amazing freshman season at Illinois and led him to a Final Four. So, I do believe in that, and, kind of the winning pedigree has to matter and has to mean something. But I'm just a little lower on Wagler than the rest. However, if he were there at pick 15, there's no way the Bulls would pass up. It would kind of be the perfect 2-guard next to Josh Giddey. And he gets to stay in the state of Illinois. So there you go. I do think Wagler will go higher. I comped him to Austin Reeves in terms of offensive ability. The defense is a big question mark. I'm worried about that. And if you need a 2-guard who can defend, Wagler is not the guy I would take. So that's kind of my question marks with him and why I have him a little lower. All right, moving on. Pick 16. So I did not intentionally set this up, but when I realized that Memphis could draft the 2 Arkansas Razorback freshman guards and in the backcourt and draft them right in the backcourt, I had to do it. That is freshman Malik Thomas, who averaged 15, 3, and 2, shot over 41% from 3. This guy is a prototypical 2-guard, off-ball scoring guard. Good size, stands at 6'5", a little scrawny, a little skinny, can definitely put on some weight, but he's a fun player to watch. He had some really fun highlights. He's a tough shot maker, takes some wild, questionable shots, but they always go in, kind of sort of thing. So he could be a little bit of a heat check guy, but I do think adding Darius Acuff at pick 3 and then getting his buddy in the backcourt, Malik Thomas, helps. I didn't do that intentionally. I just think it fits what Memphis needs because obviously KCP is not going to be Caldwell Pope is not going to be the starting 2-guard. Not much of a shooter anymore. So I think this helps. And again, you get 2 Arkansas Razorback guards there who had a good attitude, who were winning players last year on their team, and coached by Coach Cal. Coach Cal guards, just like old Kentucky guards, that's another type of player you can feel comfortable drafting. You can rest assured drafting them because they're going to show up and compete. They're going to work their ass off to do the right thing, all the right things to be a professional athlete. So. All right, pick 17, another Sam Presti, Oklahoma City pick here. So I have seen them mocked a Michigan player, the Ade Mera, the center, the 7'3" center guy, because I know they want to beef up their front court. We all saw what Wemby just did to Chet and their entire front court. So they need to get stronger. They need to get bigger down low with this pick. So I've seen them mocked Ade Mera. However, this is where I'm going to play devil's advocate for Morez Johnson Jr. I think there's another Michigan big man who's the better one, the younger one, the better value player, and I think he's got a way higher ceiling. That is Morez Johnson Jr., 6'9", 6'10", hybrid power forward / center. I think his best role is like a Colin Murray Boyles big man off the bench in his first couple years, but he can ultimately develop. This guy's a big-time athlete, big-time shot blocker, 1.1 blocks, can jump out the gym, freak athlete, super strong down low. Again, my comp was Colin Murray-Boyles. I think that is kind of the role he would play in this iteration for OKC in year one. Just high energy offensive rebounder off the bench, can come in and just muck up the game for a couple minutes. That is what I see out of Johnson Jr. If you're taking Mara, I would just take Johnson Jr. because I think he has a way higher ceiling. Mara, I'm a little lower on him. We'll get him later in this draft, but I just don't think he moves as well as Johnson, even if he's a couple inches shorter. All right, pick 18. This player actually feels like a Charlotte Hornet, like already. Feels like he would fit in perfectly, and he's from the North Carolina already. That is Isaiah Evans out of Duke University. 6'6", 6'7" shooting guard / small forward wing player. Isaiah Evans, scrawny, slim shooter. This guy is just a microwave scorer. You do not want the ball in his hands for long. You don't want him creating off the dribble or really like playmaking at all. Honestly, catch and shoot is kind of his specialty. Last year at Duke, he shot this past season, he shot 36% from three on 7 attempts. A lot of those were some difficult looks though. So this guy is a microwave heat check guy. When he's on, he's on. I copped him to Jordan Poole because I believe there are good sides of him that can be the good Jordan Poole. And then I think there are bad sides of him that can be the bad Jordan Poole. That's kind of why you would ultimately fall to 18. If he was a perfect player, he'd go a lot higher. But there are plenty of teams who could use this guy. There are plenty of teams. I've said the Pistons multiple times could use a scorer like Isaiah Evans off the bench. I would take him in a heartbeat if he was there at pick 21. But Hornets, this kind of is their Kobe White replacement. If they don't bring Kobe White back, I assume they will, but this kind of helps their scoring off the bench. A Charlotte guy right there in state, and kind of fits the attitude of the rest of the players, kind of heat check offensive scoring mode that LaMelo Ball plays with. So, all right, moving on. Pick number 19, Toronto Raptors now on the clock. Now, this is tough because they're a team that might try to make some moves, try to get cheaper, However, some of their contracts are untradeable, kind of like the Jakob Poeltl one and the Emmanuel Quigley one. However, they hit on their pick with Colin Murray-Boyles. It appears like Scotty Barnes is going to take another step. Ingram had a really good season for them. I thought RJ Barrett had a really good playoff run with them. He really impressed me in the playoffs, and I think he's like a real dude for them going forward. They got to improve their front court, though. I like Quickly and Shed as the smaller guards. I don't know if that's like you might be stuck with them ultimately. However, Jakob Poeltl either has to play better or you got to find someone to take that contract because he was low-key unplayable in the playoffs. I am drafting Henry Vesar from North Carolina to Toronto because I do think they need a center still, like a starting center long-term. I don't think Vesar will be ready to play year one. Like, I think he's probably a backup, very minimal minutes year one. But, again, this is a team that doesn't really have a good option in the front court long term. So I'm just getting more talent in the building by drafting Henry Vesar, 6'11" center who had a big season for North Carolina. Reminds me of Kelly Olynyk. I think that's kind of the comp you can expect out of him at the next level. All right, pick 20. San Antonio Spurs, who are in the finals. Yes, they have pick 20. That's a pretty good pick for them, and they're going to get a player who helps. They have a hole at the wing position, and they're expecting Carter Bryant to take a step next year. We're going to add another Arizona wing who kind of was the same player as Carter Bryant. That is Koa Pete. I don't think Pete has the same potential that Bryant has, but if you're talking just who had the better freshman season, it's Koa Pete all day. I mean, Bryant didn't even play much at Arizona and just was a freak athlete and had crazy tools, and that's why he went high. And it's looking like a good pick. He's been a huge factor for them in the playoffs. Bryant's played a huge role for San Antonio defensively in the playoffs. So I think this is a smart pick by San Antonio again, where they add another wing who does similar things from the same school, and you can feel confident adding bringing Koa Pete into the room to an already serious basketball team who's only going to get better and might win an NBA Finals in their first playoff run. So we'll see. All right, pick 21, the moment we've all been waiting for. My team, the Detroit Pistons. Yes. Everybody's been waiting for this team, I know. I got to go with my guy at the top of my board right now, Bennett Sturts. I've talked about him a couple times, how I wouldn't mind the Pistons taking him. This guy can be a combo point guard / off-ball two guard. He's 6'4", has enough size, NBA athlete, big-time shot maker, difficult shot maker, unlimited range, can pull up from wherever, can chuck from deep, can drill in the mid-range, 3-level scorer. Carried Iowa, almost led them to the Final Four, averaging 19 points and 4 assists and under two turnovers per game. Shot 36% from 3, 47 from the field. I love Ben Stearns. I think that guy's like junkyard dog. I think he's going to be a tough, gritty competitor. I comped him to Peyton Pritchard last week. I think that's absolutely the role he can play, and he's actually even bigger. I think you can make a case he had a better college career than Peyton Pritchard had. So that's the type of player you're looking at the next level. And if the Pistons can add that into their backcourt, get Cade some help ball handling wise, get Cade some help like shooting wise, I think that fills a need and is some good value for the Detroit Pistons at pick 21, where I think he could be a backup point guard for them coming off the bench, helping them win next year. So, all right, pick 22 now. Philadelphia 76ers here. So I mocked this player to them a couple weeks ago, and we are doing it again. That is Cameron Carr from Baylor. They need backcourt depth like nobody's business. Again, we all know the Jared McCain trade that they traded him away, who could really be using him now, but we're going to add Cameron Carr, who looks like Zach LaVine from an offensive standpoint. This guy plays stylistically similar to Zach LaVine. He's just kind of goes in, chucks up shots, creates for himself, does whatever. Doesn't bring too much else to the table, doesn't bring a ton of value elsewhere, but that's all 76ers would need off the bench is a scoring guard who can come in and kind of heat up, because they were missing that in the playoffs big time with like a very small rotation. So, all right, pick 23 now, Atlanta Hawks on the clock. I am going Ibuka Okere from Stanford for them, a very small 6'1", off-ball kind of combo guard, almost like what was my comp from? Okay, Cam Thomas. Yeah, Cam Thomas and Marcus Sasser were my comps for him. This guy's like 6'1", 6'2" only, but the numbers he put up at Stanford were kind of insane. 23 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists on decent efficiency, 46 from the field, 35 from deep on 5 attempts. That's good enough. Good free throw shooter. So it's just the size, man. It's the size and the playmaking. You can't be that small, and the assist numbers are that low. And the 3-point shooting is by no means knockdown. I mean, 35 is league average, but you'd love to see that over like 40, like some shooters who are that small, I guess. So I find it hard to believe this guy can be like a long-term starter. I believe I had him in my rotational starter list. But I think his best role on like a good team in this iteration could be the Atlanta Hawks coming off the bench for them, who they had some struggles at backup point guard position. I know they were trotting out Gabe Vincent in the playoffs, and so they got to upgrade that. You got to upgrade that position. So whether he's the backup 1, backup 2, Ibuka Okere could be a good value pick for the Hawks there and bring some bench scoring and some minor bench playmaking if you still have like Jalen Johnson out there kind of facilitating. So, all right, pick 24, New York Knicks. Now, I had to take this player to the Knicks here because he plays in the same arena, Madison Square Garden. That is Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's. Yes, I love this player. You guys know where I stand with him. There's no way this guy doesn't find a role on a playoff team to help a team win. He is a culture guy. He's a leader. He's a winner. He is a defensive mastermind, defensive specialist. Big East Defensive Player of the Year, averaged 2 blocks and 1 steal at 6'9". That is Zuby Ejiofor, St. John's. Again, this guy is just a culture winner guy. You know he's going to show up and do the right thing. You know fans are going to love him. And if he gets to stay in New York, that you add another wing for them off the bench, like a power forward, can play a small ball center role. I believe my comp for him was Obi Toppin, who the Knicks also drafted a couple years ago. Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Williams are 2 other comps that you could throw out for him, which I think are very fair. He kind of looks like Isaiah Stewart in terms of how they play and kind of the energy, the passion they play with. So I would love if he turned into an Isaiah Stewart. You know, Stu's obviously one of my favorite players on the Pistons, but I think getting him into New York, that Madison Square Garden crowd would already love Zuby. and I know he would help the Knicks win right away. He would probably help them this week in the NBA Finals if he could, but All right, last 5 picks here. Moving on, pick 25, Los Angeles Lakers. This is where I'm at drafting Ademera because I think at pick 25, it's honestly elite value there. I don't think he'll fall that far, but a 7'3" center who averaged, I think he averaged 12, 6, and 2 blocks, 2 assists, which is good facilitating for a big man. I think that's kind of a strength of his that you can run some offense through him. Obviously, big shot blocker, 2.6 blocks per game, but standing at 7'3", I would hope you're blocking over 2 shots a game. And we all know the Lakers have a huge need at center, huge hole. It sounds like they're stuck with DeAndre Ayton, who will pick up his $8 million player option. It sounds like they want to bring Jackson Hayes back. However, Ademera would be probably the highest ceiling amongst the guys in that grouping right there. Would obviously be the youngest, only 21, true junior. And I think at pick 25, I have no issues with that pick at 25. I am not taking him in the top 10 like I've seen. I've seen Mara as high as 8th overall to the Hawks, which I just feel like is crazy. But pick 25, now we're talking. Now you can convince me of that. So, all right, pick 26, Denver Nuggets, who are kind of in a weird fork in the road where you have Jokic and you I would say you've kind of underwhelmed for how the past couple seasons since the finals run. So you kind of need to open up your second window and capitalize on having Nikola Jokic. So this player I'm drafting for them is kind of like a Spencer Jones type of player. That is Alan Graves from Santa Clara. Power forward, true freshman, but this guy kind of came out of nowhere and just burst on the scene, averaging 11, 6, and 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and shot the ball 41% from 3, which is elite. He hit that big 3 against Kentucky that would have won them the game until Oweh tied it up on the very next play. But epic shot, big time March Madness shot, clutch gene, clutch factor. This guy not afraid of the moment, showed up in all the big games for Santa Clara. However, he was not a starter for them, which I found interesting. So, a little bit of a risky pick taking him in the first round, but I do think he will go first round. I probably think he'll go higher than this. I comped him to Georges Niang last week, which is kind of like how they look stylistically, play-wise. And it's kind of the same position they'll play as well. Kind of a shooting small forward, size power forward who can rebound a little bit, space the floor, play a little defense. That's kind of what Graves can bring to the Nuggets in similar Spencer Jones role, Peyton Watson role for them coming off the bench. All right, pick 27. Now, this is the lowest player on my big board in the first round, but I'm taking him to the Celtics because they love big, strong wings like this, and I feel like they always draft big, strong wings like this. That is Dallin Swain out of Texas. 6'8", 245 pounds, just a prototypical 3-and-D small forward. I said the ceiling prototype for this player is an OG Anunoby on the Knicks. That is what the ceiling of Dallin Swain looks like, OG Anunoby. However, my floor prediction for what is like the worst case scenario of what he could be, you're looking at a Stanley Johnson out of Arizona like 10 years ago. Stanley Johnson was a bust and never really hit that ceiling because he just never developed a three-point shot, never developed a mid-range shot, and would just only use his brute force and brute strength to get to the rim. And when you do that against NBA athletes, they're better than you. They're stronger than you. They're bigger than you. So that is my one question for Swain. I think he's got the talent, he's got the athleticism, and he's got the body. I mean, he is built like OG out there. So if he can develop any sort of offensive game, this could be a steal pick for the Celtics. However, if not, you could be looking at a Stanley Johnson type situation on the Pistons. So, all right, moving on, 28, Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, it sounds like they're going to move one of their big men or one of their 4-5 players, so I am drafting them Joshua Jefferson at pick 28 here. As a power forward, 6'9" power forward out of Iowa State, averaged 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4.8 assists. Like we said, this guy's like a Boris Diaw point forward, averaged almost 5 assists for the number two seeded tournament team. Like, this guy's a winner at the highest level in college. Big-time NBA body, big-time NBA athlete. The stats are too good. The experience is too good. He will help a team some way. And I think that Timberwolves could have a void in their kind of front court on their bench. And if Joshua Jefferson could come off the bench with like Naz Reid next year, you might have something off your bench for a team who's kind of been razor thin over the past few seasons. So, all right, pick 29. The Cleveland Cavaliers. I've mocked this player to the Cavs for a couple times now. We're going Alex Karaban from UConn because he seems like such a Cavalier. He seems like a player like Max Strus and Sam Merrill who's just going to bury a ton of threes against my team for years to come. Alex Karaban played in 3 national championships and won 2 of them. The experience this guy has, the big game moments this guy has, the shot making, 37% career shooter from three-point land, 46% career shooter from the field at UConn. Just an all-time winner, all-time player who's going to sacrifice his shots for the sake of the team. The Cavs love adding shooting wings on the end. He could kind of replace the Dean Wade role. I think that's good value for them at pick 29, and also as a player that kind of fits their offense. All right, last pick of the first round here. Pick 30. Dallas Mavericks. We are taking my Cincinnati Bearcat. Want to get this guy in the first round. That is Baba Miller, power forward out of Cincinnati. This guy averaged 13, 10, and 3 assists last year. Really good offensive rebounder. Very good defensive rebounder as well. Good defense player. Long strides, long wingspan. Could kind of do it all at the forward position. He was by far Cincinnati's best player, so I really just had to get him in here because I think he was kind of alone out there for us and doing it all. And I think he's too good to not find a role in the NBA somewhere, one way or another. I don't think he'll go first round, but again, he's one of my 30 top prospects, one of my favorite players in this draft. So I want to see him go in the first round. I definitely think there's a team out there who could use a guy like Baba Miller. So, all right, that's all I got for you guys today. Here as we look back and review this pick. Again, Caleb Wilson went 1 overall to the Wizards in my what I would do mock, with Devonta going 2. Let me know what you guys think of this mock draft. If this is the worst mock ever or if you think this is pretty good, let me know. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to The Point After with Mitch Kaiser below. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will be back tomorrow with my NBA Finals preview for Knicks Spurs. Cannot wait to do that. Hope you guys have a great Monday.